Welcome to BARI Banter, where we talk everything bariatric surgery with the people that know it best, the patients. I'm Shannon, and I'm here with my co-hostess with the mostest,
Lita. So sit back, relax, and remember, sip, sip, sip.
So welcome back to another episode of BARI Banter. I just want to start this episode by saying I'm perfect. Okay, maybe don't laugh so hard next time. But no, I had my, what would it be like? Almost like 4-year checkup with my surgeon today.
Sorry, I'm still laughing.
Yeah, calm down, mate. Jeez, it's not that hard to believe. And apparently my bloods are perfect. Maybe even better than perfect. Apparently my good cholesterol is super high. She's really struggling to...
Sorry, I really wasn't expecting you to lead off with that, and I'm just like taken aback.
I'm kind of offended that you feel like me saying I'm perfect is like so like hilarious. But either way, I'm going to push forward. But yeah, my cholesterol, good cholesterol is really high. My liver test is really good. To the point where my surgeon was like, you know, your liver, like your cholesterol thing is probably better than mine is.
Well, I'm going to take that as a win for me because I'm the one that prepares all your meals, and I'm the one that... Well done, Lita, for making Shannon so perfect.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Sorry,
the other thing
I really wasn't expecting you to...
Wow.
We didn't discuss what we were going to talk about before, and then Shannon leads off with, I'm perfect.
I'm kind of...
Okay, sure.
I don't mind how it went, but I'm also kind of super offended with how you responded to that. But we're going to move on. The other thing I wanted to actually say leading into that was thank you. Because I've been going through a bit of like for the last 11 years, a bit of a business rut, where I've not really been, I guess like pushing my business in the right direction. You know, by business, I mean like me being self-employed. And over the last probably year, I've watched you kind of blossom in the business world, like, you know, really put a lot of effort into it. It's kind of inspired me a little bit. And I was thinking that today when I was working today, that like, you know, watching you being inspired by starting your own business has kind of like made me go, you know, I need to appreciate what I have. You know, I need to like put the effort in. And like, I'm very grateful. Like, you know, being self-employed isn't something like people can just do overnight. And, you know, I've done it for like 12 years. And I guess you kind of like anything, take it for granted to a degree. But watching you over the last, like, I guess year be like, take those little wins, be inspired by those little wins has kind of made me reignite that passion of like, you know, maybe I need to take my business that next level. So yeah, I just wanted to say thank you.
Oh, well, look, I'm so taken aback by everything that you've started with this.
You're kind of like sitting there being like, I just laughed at you being like, you know,
you're perfect, and then I'm like, oh wow, he's the perfect partner. Oh, this is really awkward.
That's it. I like to play mind games.
Yeah, well, mind games 101 with Shannon. But I think a lot of what I'm doing now has to do with you, and like I'm reading a book at the moment by Lisa Messenger, and it's all about how to disrupt and disturb. And one of the things is that you need to step out of your comfort zones, and you need to find somebody who gives you the encouragement to disturb. And I think without you backing me, I wouldn't have had the encouragement to disturb, if that makes sense. Like,
oh, that's great. Because like without Sally at the surf club, like I wouldn't have had the courage. Kidding. No, I'm just saying, like, I get what you're saying. Like, it is. Like, sometimes even, like, talking to Simon, who I work with the other week, who, like, I said, man, you have so many skills. Like, why have you not gone out by yourself? And
because
he's like...
you want somebody to back you. You need somebody to say, you know what? I believe in you.
Why, though?
Because you...
it's like a self-doubt.
There's certain people in
yeah,
society who aren't the Shannons of the world who need somebody that goes, you know what? I believe you can do this.
Yeah. You should be that person though.
But I am that person now.
Yeah.
But I needed the yous of the world. To get me to that now.
No,
and now now that's my entire business. Like I want to support the people who think that they
can't. And kind of give them that little bit of I think that's a very
that's
a broad
niche.
spectrum
I just
kind of
found
thing.
my niche.
Well, I think it's a definitely niche. Like, you know, even listening to the Barefoot Investor, I've been listening to that lately, and like he talks about credit cards and like backing yourself and blah blah and I get that because like sometimes you kind of like, you know, like I talk about with exercise and like my whole journey, like, you know, I talked about surgery today and I said it's first year last year that I never struggled my weight. And it's purely because I back myself now. Like it's purely because I'm like inbuilt certain things into my life that I kind of now know will assist me going forward. And it's the same with like, you know, what I was talking about with financial stuff. It's like sometimes you just need to like back that you can do something. Like self-doubt is the biggest thing that we all suffer from. So, you know, for me, I'm like, I get it, but it's also like sooner or later you take that leap and then you kind of develop that as you go along. So, yeah. Anyway,
well, talking about backing yourself, that kind of relates into our guest tonight. So tonight's guest was sleeved in 2015. She has maintained a 75% weight loss over the last 7 or so years and completely turned her life around. When we asked her to describe herself in 3 words, she answered that she was resilient in adversity. Please welcome tonight's guest, Kirsty. Hello, lovely.
Hello, welcome, guys. Good to chat.
All Kirsty's learned in the time that we've had this episode going is Shannon sucks at technology.
So Shannon is not perfect.
Either way.
Shannon is not perfect. We've learnt this in the last half an hour.
Alita, bloods are perfect. I'm not.
So you described yourself as resilient in adversity.
Yeah.
Explain.
I suppose the one thing is, you know, when you've gone through an awful lot, you realise that you can, I suppose, crawl into bed, curl into a ball and stay there, or you can get up. And I always have this whole philosophy that, you know, tomorrow's a new day. Right. So for me, you know, when you have an awful lot that actually goes on in your world, I soon learnt that putting a smile on, there's a new day around the corner, and just getting into the do became really important, even if it was a minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day to get me by. But being really resilient is something that my family has always said that they're very proud of just how resilient I am. And so is my psychologist and others around me.
Mm.
It's funny you say that because my mum used to always say to me, like in the younger days when I used to have breakups and blah, 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 she'd be like, you know what? You choose to be happy. You wake up every single morning and you choose your destiny. And I was like, Mum, that's a load of bollocks. And she's like, no, you wake up every morning and you decide, are you going to be happy today or are you going to be miserable today? And for the longest time, I never understood what she meant. But I think in the last 4 years, like I've embraced that almost every single day. And I think I almost have my mum's voice in the back of my head every single day going, you know what? Even if yesterday ended on a shit note, you wake up today and you choose that today is going to be different.
Yeah. I had a co-worker who had done this whole stopped me because I went, it's been such a bad week, and was like, all these things that were bad. And the next week would be, it's such a bad week. So what if all you ever do is count up the bad, it's always going to be a bad week. What I did with her, and I kind of started having chats where we talked more about what was in the positive, because there might only be one thing negative and it might have only been 1 or 2 in the week, but it didn't make for a bad week. So similar sort of things of, you know, what do we want to hold on to?
What's that saying? It's a bad moment, not a bad day. Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, it is one of those things, but like saying that, like I live with someone who had a clinical depression. And I'm the same, like I'm the same as you. Like I totally get that. Like I can literally have a shit day and all it takes is driving down the motorway and seeing someone broken down. I'm like, well, my day's better than theirs. And then it totally like, you know, goes, well, you know, perspective. But then living with someone who kind of like lives in a hole, you know, like a depression hole, you know, I kind of get that. Like, 'cause back, you know, we talked about it before, like when I was back in my early stages of surgery, I went through really bad depression. But my depression was purely based on health, and it was also based on kind of the way I looked at the world. So like I used to always look at the world and like look at the negative aspects of life and, you know, the world, and, you know, like humanity in a whole is kind of very negative, and like that kind of was sent me into depression. But, you know, there are some people out there who do really suffer with like, you know, just being in that hole. But I don't know, like it's hard because I've never been in that hole to understand clinical depression. Is it one of those like forced upon things where you're kind of like, you're in such a hole that you can't get out? Or is it like, you know, I guess I'll never know because I won't be in clinical depression. But either way, I know what you mean because sometimes it's like the way you look at the world is the way you live your world. So sometimes you just need to be like, okay, today I have a good day. Today, that little thing like, that crippling debt isn't going to affect me. I'm going to move past that. But, it's all about perspective sometimes. So I do totally get that. But, we just look at me and be like,
we just looked at each other because I was like, I feel like I need to say something, but I was like, I don't know how to follow on.
She's like, crippling debt. Yeah, I know what that feels like.
The crippling debt got me because, like, I feel like everybody has a choice at the beginning of every day to decide how they're going to react throughout that day. And that's what the immediate thought came to my brain. But then I also thought there's people out there who don't have that luxury. Like, the situation that we're living in at the moment, there's people who they might be, isolated for certain periods of time, or they might be living in a domestic violence relationship or all those sorts of things. And I would like to think for myself that you choose to be happy, but
some situations it's harder than others.
It's not the case all the time.
Sometimes it's very difficult. Something's getting chosen for us, which then becomes a little tougher, but we, can still make some choices along the way as to some of them. I mean, COVID's been very challenging for me. I'm an extrovert. I get energized by people. So 2 years locked in my house, harsh, really harsh.
Yeah.
I've lived the last 5 years on stage and in front of audiences and at conference and talking to people all day, every day, being a trainer in front of a room. I could have hundreds of people I might see in a day. I've literally had days where at the end of the day I don't even want to hear myself speak another word because I've done nothing but talk.
Yeah.
Nearly a second from 7:30 in the morning till I finished at 6 o'clock all night, if not more. And I then go, okay, I'm done. I've got a headache. I'm dehydrated. So today, to the point where I haven't even heard my own voice, literally said one word for 2 or 3 days. And then my mum phones me and I go, oh, hello. Hang on.
You're like, this was a quiet time.
Else.
This was a quiet time. So you talk about like with the being on stage and stuff like that. What's that all about? Like you just getting out there telling your story, or is it part of your career path?
It was part of my career path. I suppose it comes back around to some of the journey that I went into. Back in 2015, I was made redundant in a role. And at the time, I was 100 odd kilos. I was depressed. My anxiety was really high.
Yep.
I'd gone through a daughter who had been very sick and suicidal and in and out of hospital and was, trying to get better, mental health issues. I had lost my children. My twins had been taken out of the States to Canberra illegally. I'd gone through a lot. And they came back to me at 18 on their own volition once they kind of had that sort of power. And so I was not in the best place. I was single because I had left my partner from domestic violence.
Yeah.
So there was a lot that had actually gone on to me. So when they talk about some of the resilience, I'd had many years in court, and eventually I just stopped fighting and I refused to engage because it wasn't good for my own health. And so I had hit this point where I was really big. We'd had a few of the same surgeries within the family. They had gone down that road. I had seen a friend go through it rather unsuccessfully, and I kind of thought, well, maybe I'm not going to do this. But, after a few decisions, I went, right, I'm going to kick back into my own business. And I'd had my business previously before I went into full-time employment for a couple of years, and that was the one that made me redundant. So when I'm going to go back into it, and I was starting to do a lot more and be on stage at that point already, and I wanted to be confident. That was one of the biggest things, was I wanted to take control of my world.
As you're standing on stage.
Yeah. I wanted to stand on stage. I did not want to be 102.5 kilos standing on stage.
Yeah.
So for me, it was about, I needed the energy to also keep up with a grandson that was on the way. So I've got a grandson, he's 4.5. I wanted to find a partner and be in a healthy place rather than just settling, because I thought no one would want that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Preach.
Yeah, that's it. There was a combination of a lot of things, and for me it was I wasn't going to let the other people control my world, and I didn't want to punish myself for other people's behaviour anymore, which was one of the big things. So my business is, I'm actually a specialist in Microsoft. I help organisations with rolling out Microsoft 365 technology. So I'm Microsoft Teams. We're using Zoom today,
Wow.
so Microsoft Teams. So I'm actually one of the industry leading specialists in this space. I've been awarded 4 times by Microsoft over the last 4 years as what's called a Microsoft MVP, a most valued professional. I'm only 5 foot. Everyone calls me a minimal viable product.
Oh my God.
But as an MVP, for me, it's about community work. So I do a lot of community work, and because of that, I'm on stage and I'm speaking. I run user groups in Australia. So I've sort of in Sydney and Melbourne. I've spoken at a lot of international conferences. I'm on podcasts and interviews. You look me up online, like you can type in Kirsty McGrath online, you're going to find about 5 pages full of information. And that's in the last 6 years since my surgery. Because I went,
so cool.
I am going to learn to sit with my emotions. I had a fabulous psychologist that I had been seeing for many years through all of the trauma. And I spoke to her and said, I'm contemplating doing the sleeve. And she went, oh my God, that's so exciting. Did you know I used to be working in a sleeve surgery as a psychologist for a while? And I went, are you kidding me? She goes, let me tell you all about it.
Oh my God.
Oh,
So
wow.
phenomenal support over the last 6 years. So whenever I start to kind of crash and burn,
Mm-hmm.
I would just pick up the phone and go, I need to come in. And because she understands kind of the cycle. So having the psych back me up when things are going wrong in my world has been a massive component for me to be successful.
To have anyone back you up like that, you know, to have that safety net of like support there. So before surgery, you didn't do what you do now? Like you didn't have that, like, you know, you didn't get up on stage and, you know.
Look, I started to do a little tiny bit. I'd done a little bit here and there, but nothing to the scale of what I started to do at Microsoft conferences, the big Microsoft conferences, and international over in, you know, go to Microsoft in Redmond, and, you know, these sorts of things. So, you know, to take it to that kind of where you got hundreds of people in a room, very different than 20 people in a room.
Yeah, no, 100%.
And is that because of your confidence now? Like, did they offer you the position prior to and you just turned it down because you weren't like confident in yourself? Like, is this something you've always been born to do, but you just you didn't back yourself?
Had told me 10 years ago I'd be up on a stage, I would have laughed you out of
Yep.
on your life. I think it came from, I started with just sort of doing training, so I'd be in front of an audience of sort of 12 people, and I started to get a little bit more confident with just standing in front of a few people, and it kind of built up from there. Doing some of the smaller conferences where there might be 30 people, and then it started getting bigger and bigger. So it was certainly a skill that was learned. But as I took off weight, it made such a huge difference to so many facets of my world. But to make me successful in business, it was a combination of, I had a psychologist, I got myself a fabulous mentor, a business coach, I should say, coach and mentor. I had an osteopath. I would get my massages. I had a great doctor and a great surgeon and a great dietitian. I went at it as, you know, for me, it wasn't about one component. I couldn't do one thing successfully, and I knew I couldn't do it on my own, that I needed a team to be able to
like it's almost like you approach your bariatric surgery like a business. Like you approach it like, you know, I'm going to hire the right people, put them in place, and then, you know, achieve what I want to achieve. Like, which is like
the best way to look at it.
Yeah, really, it is. It's an amazing way to approach it, because it's like, you know, at the end of the day, they get paid the big bucks for a reason.
It's funny that you talk about talking in front of people too, because like I used to work on cruise ships, and I wasn't like, I might have been around maybe 100, 110 kilos, and I was the person that I was called the promotional ambassador, is what my official term was. So I would stand there on the microphone and I'd spruik all the sails, and I would be the person on the microphone, like trying to sell things to people, like in front of sometimes hundreds of people. But the thing, everyone said, how did you have the confidence to do it? Because like, I didn't have the confidence to do it. The thing that,
fake confidence.
it was fake confidence because everybody was there because we'd spruiked it up throughout the whole week, that everybody was there for the product, not for me. So I could quite easily stand there and hand out raffle tickets. I could, converse with the audience, and people would think that I had all the confidence in the world. But I also knew that the 200 people standing there were not standing there for me. They were standing there for the fake Pandora bracelets that were standing in front of me. You know what I mean? So like, you had that confidence behind you.
They do have a lure to them.
Like, but now, and we spoke about this in last week or 2 weeks ago podcast, that like for me now, I am my business. Like if I'm going and sitting down with somebody to, get them on board as a client, I'm selling myself. And there's no way that I could have done that 4 years ago. There's no way that I could have sat down and like with somebody, walking up to them, being 127 kilos, walking up to them and being like, I believe this person thinks, regardless of my design skills, based on appearance, which is so sad. We shouldn't think this about ourselves, but I didn't have the confidence in myself 4 years ago at 127 kilos that what I do now. Like it's just, why does weight define our confidence in ourselves?
No, I think weight is a society standard and it defines your self-security. So it's like, it's like anything in the world. It's like if you believe in yourself, you can do it. But like weight is like, I'm not successful in my weight, so I'm not successful in life. And like I'm the same, like like even when I was bigger, like I would walk into most situations being very insecure of the situation because it's like, I was bigger.
But like you look at, I actually showed you a post on Instagram the other day or Facebook, whatever, and it was Rebel Wilson and how well she's done in her transformation. And I said, what's really sad? Rebel Wilson is known as a plus size actress.
Yeah.
And everybody is very intrigued as to see how she now...
I think she falls under the same category as Seth Rogen. Like she was famous for being bigger.
Bigger, 100%.
She was Fat Amy.
She was.
You know what I mean?
Everybody
like same as
knows
Seth
her as
Rogen
Fat
was bigger.
Amy.
It's like, it acts as a character in society. And like, unfortunately, that's kind of a thing. So
and that's what I mean. I'm very intrigued to see how she
performs as an actress,
recategorizes herself, because as much as like without the weight stigma, like Daniel Radcliffe is Harry Potter. Rebel Wilson is Fat Amy.
Sure, okay.
Like, you know what I mean? Like you're
as Spider-Man's been recast like 7 times. But yes, I get what you're saying.
Like you can't I hate that weight defines you as your role.
Oh, it is. It's society.
Yeah.
Society defines that.
I get that. For me, when I had to stand in front of some of the largest and most impressively paid execs in Australia, and I had to run a workshop, of which I've done many times with leading banks and organisations of Fortune 500. So I've worked with a vast portion of the Fortune top 200 Microsoft clients in Australia, and I have to stand there in a room. I can tell you now that it was my sense of perception, not necessarily theirs, but I didn't feel being taken as a professional in the industry when I was up against, some of the people, I was sleek, male, powerful, and then I was blonde, overweight. For me, it was
intimidating.
So what you project is then what they pick up, because it was my confidence that then they pick up. So, I think it comes down to a bit of that too.
Oh, I totally believe that. Like if you walk into a room and you project confidence, people are going to take you more seriously if you walk in there like a little scared little, rabbit, like, well, if you walk in there and go like, I know what I'm talking about. I'm going to tell you what I know. they're going to take you more seriously. So I totally believe that. Because, like, obviously you're, like, I look at you and I think, oh, I love this because you're success. Like, I look at you, where you've started, where you've got to, and I go, I love it. But, you know, it hasn't been without complications, though. Like, you've had a few little issues on the way through. Talk us through that.
Yeah. Oh, there has been. I suppose the biggest ones would be, I mean, I've had the success of, I suppose I had the abdominoplasty, the breast reduction to get, you know, to look a little bit more on the outside, on the inside, but I started to get sicker and sicker. My bloods were all coming out really quite well, apart from iron. Iron, you know, vitamin D would occasionally get low because I'm a techie and I literally have the propeller hat sitting behind a laptop. So if I'm not there in a conference room or a training room or whatever, I was literally in a room 24/7. So yeah, vitamin D needed to be done. But my iron was getting really low, like really low. So I kept getting infusions, but I was feeling more and more unwell. I had lethargy. This severe exhaustion. I was battling depression, blurred vision. And I've always battled with joint pain. There is severe, and I mean, this is the other big reason I had surgery. There is severe arthritis in my family. I have family members, and they are actually in wheelchairs and scooters, very overweight. And for me, I did not want to be in a wheelchair at 55 and 60.
Yeah.
Actually not be able to walk. There are multiple surgeries and all sorts of things. So my joints were just sore. I just ached. There was all these different things that were going on, and my iron was low. So I was getting these iron infusions. I kept going to the doctor and going, something is just not right. It's just not right, and it's getting worse and worse. And I was thinking maybe it was my diet because I was losing hair again, and teeth were my gums were bleeding. And I thought, I'm just not looking after myself. Maybe I'm not doing it right.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we kept going, and I had a fabulous doctor. He went, right, it came up with an indicator around something around autoimmune. So I was like, okay. He sent me off to a rheumatologist who went through the barrage, and he just tested absolutely everything. And I went back to him after a couple of months, and he had done x-rays and that sort of thing of my joints, and we'd done a couple of other things, and including all these blood tests. And when I went back and I had a look on the morning, and it said, you don't have any arthritis. There's nothing on the rheumatoid. There's nothing on the osteo. And I then started freaking out, going, what could it be? My joints are...
What's wrong with me?
I had dealt with arthritis since I was quite young. Like with the family, been battling it for a long time. And my specialist, he came back and said, because I had the good news and bad news. Like, right, okay, the good news, we can fix it pretty quickly. It's, it's curable and you don't have arthritis. Okay. And he goes, however, you're a pirate, a horror in your
What?
What?
And he goes, you phenomenally low in ascorbic acid, which is vitamin C. He said at 26, you're on the lowest end of the scale. Down at, I think it's at 12, your class is having scurvy. You're at 6.
Wow.
Phenomenally low. Phenomenally low. And so it gets to the point where if you're down at 6, it's getting really bad. Your organs can start shutting down. Usually your pores are all starting to bleed and your hair's going curly. And he's going, did your hairdresser or your dentist, have they not noticed anything? And I just went, well, they said it's pretty damaged. And my teeth, and they said, well, I need to clean my teeth better. And I'm like going, really? I go to the dentist pretty regularly, and I've got an electric toothbrush. Anyway, so he put me on three times a day, 1,000 milligrams iron, because iron works with vitamin C.
Vitamin C, yeah.
Yeah. So it's knocking out my iron and vice versa. And now I didn't drink orange juice, and I didn't have oranges and that sort of thing, and I wasn't eating things like marmalade jam, for example, because it was putting that on toast is kind of, why would I do that as a flavour? And I had such bad reflux. that I trying to have orange juice and things like that was not great.
Yeah.
Okay. That I couldn't get enough into my system. Ultimately, with the food I was having, yes, I'm having tomatoes and spinach, and I love broccoli, and I was having other foods, but I wasn't also eating enough to counteract what was going on in terms of the malabsorption. And I spoke with my bariatric surgeon. He said, in the 7,000 clients that I've got, never seen it, and did a whole heap of research, and we're not really seeing it. They believed that because I was taking reflux medication, I'd been taking it for so long, it was lining the stomach and then potentially causing issues with being able to absorb vitamins and minerals. So,
Okay.
yeah. So I went back, my surgeon went back and actually fixed the hernia, because I'd had, part of my journey at the beginning of the year was literally going back in and having a look and seeing, well, was there something going on? He went, nah, it's a minor hernia, everything's okay. Like, I did everything to try and work out what was going on. So we had that done to get me off the medication, but I'm still on fairly high doses of vitamin C. Who would have thought? And the thing is, they don't test for it. They're not testing it in the bariatric surgery. They're not testing it in the doctor's surgery. My doctor, who I have had, who is in a massive shopping centre, seeing hundreds and hundreds of people, he's pretty much there 6 days out of 7. He's there from 6 a.m. till 6 p.m. and he has never seen it.
Wow.
I've gone to a gastroenterologist as well, because we thought maybe malabsorption. He's never seen it. He is the associate professor at Macquarie University for all things and teaches it. My rheumatologist had not seen it. I had other doctor who had not seen it. So we've not heard, a little rare. But, I think it's something to be said. It costs about $70, I think, to get vitamin C tested. And it's something to put on the list.
Yeah.
It's funny because you always hear, like, I knew, and I don't know if it's just because of the people who I've seen in the past, but like I've heard a lot of people saying because I've always had low iron, in order to absorb your iron, you need to have vitamin C. So whether or not that's, orange juice or taking sups, blah, blah, in order to absorb your iron properly, you need to have it with vitamin C. So I used to take iron tablets, and my doctor told me to either have it with a piece of orange or have a sip of orange juice. But you never hear it the other way around. Like if you have a vitamin C deficiency,
It'll knock out.
How do you do, what do you do? Especially if you have an iron deficiency and a vitamin C deficiency, like what on earth do you do?
I just learned something, because I've taken vitamin C tablets pretty much my whole life because I have cold sores.
Yeah, in order to, it's
you're saying
because
to absorb
for
iron,
me,
you need vitamin C.
And it's funny because for me, when you were telling that story, I was like, common sense for me, in order to absorb iron, you need vitamin C, because I've always been deficient in. They've always been like, eat more steak, eat more greens, blah, blah, blah. But they're like, but whilst you're eating your steak, have a glass of orange juice. And I was like, who the hell wants to have orange juice and steak? Like, that's just ridiculous. But I've known, because I've suffered with iron deficiency, I've known that you need to have vitamin C with iron to absorb it. That's how it, you remember when you talk with Amy and it's about the car picks up a passenger and blah, blah, blah. So I know that the passenger for the driver for iron is vitamin C, but what's the driver for vitamin C?
A Tesla. No.
There's
infusions though. If we've got a lot of people out there really getting infusions, you may not be taking vitamin C to help with your iron because you are getting it, you're not taking the tablets together.
Yeah.
So if you're getting an infusion, which I know so many sleevers that are actually getting regular infusions.
Vitamin D,
48 hours, I was starting to feel better. In 2 weeks, I felt phenomenal. It is literally cured in 2 weeks.
What were you getting infusions for?
Sorry, if you're getting iron infusions.
Iron, yeah.
So the fact that it turned it around so fast, and I was getting bad mouth ulcers too, was another one, by the way. You get these really bad mouth ulcers. Now I can feel it. And that's the interesting thing. I can now tell because they said, oh, you've got enough iron in your system to, reserves for a good month. You can kind of bring it back a little bit now. You don't need to take as much. But my body just, I think, it craves it or needs it. And it just, because if I haven't taken them, at least twice a day, and I've stopped it and maybe dropped down to once in a day or once every 2 days kind of thing, within 2 weeks, I just go down really fast.
Yeah. Well, one of our questions last week was like, would you take the tablet? And like, again, I think this is like a like a perfect example of that. Like, we aren't ever giving our body what it requires. So if you could take a tablet that gave everything you required, would you take it? And I lost that, by the way. Like, just FYI, BARI BANTER community, you would not take the tablet. Apparently, you guys like the food.
I was very surprised by how many people said they would take the tablet.
I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. Yeah, but it's
take the tablets. All my bloods were coming out perfect.
Yeah, take the tablet.
Perfect. I was perfect. I was fine. I haven't got a problem at all.
That's it. Join the tablet team. But like our question of this week is literally our question this week is, what's your why? Kirsty, what's your why? What is your why?
What was your defining why?
Defining why for what?
Like
having bariatric surgery. We'll start there and we can lead other ways.
There's so many other whys.
But what was your why for having bariatric surgery?
The defining why for me was I was not going to be in a wheelchair at 60.
So you said that there's been other members of your family who have now ended up in wheelchairs and whatnot.
They had the surgery. My one, she did have the surgery. She was one of the oldest in Australia to actually have it.
Wow.
In fact, I think she was 72 at the time. I think she was classed as the oldest, but they might be older. She's put back on some of the weight, but she's still not back in a wheelchair, I believe. My mum is in a wheelchair and needs both knees replaced, but just can't do it, won't do it, hasn't wanted to do it. She's been in a wheelchair for a very, very long time in a scooter. So for me, it was, I also wanted to, I did it because I didn't want a way out.
Yeah.
Because the surgery is serious.
Yeah, it is.
So for me, it was a not negotiable type thing in terms of if I didn't look after myself, I could effectively put myself in really serious health conditions. Probably a bit like scurvy. But... and so I had forgotten that motto, you know what I mean, with not taking the tablet.
Yeah.
And that was a big wake-up call for me as to there was no way out. And if I wanted to do it well and be healthy, it was up to me to take control of my world and not other people to take control of it for me.
Totally.
So the rest of your family who are in wheelchairs or in mobility scooters and all that sort of thing, is that because of their weight?
Yes, and we have such bad arthritis in the family.
And arthritis comes not necessarily with weight, but it is weight related as well. So
dietary.
Osteo is about joints. It was not so much about the rheumatoid as osteo. So the more weight you have, of course, the more pressure it puts on the joints, and then it becomes a bit of a, catch-22 of both. Plus, if you don't have enough stores of things like, calcium when you hit into sort of perimenopause, it then starts to deteriorate in women as you get older, which then can cause more and more osteo around the bones. So you need to have yourself at a good level before you hit into that menopausal. Otherwise, it goes downhill. Hence why they're doing things like wheelchairs, and we're a very overweight family. So we're kind of battling our own genes. We're not very tall, 5 foot. 102 kilos, 102.5 kilos on a 5 foot is a very big, big girl.
Not ideal. Definitely not ideal.
And do you feel like, since having bariatric surgery, like you're clearly a success, but do you feel like you have like prolonged you needing to be in a wheelchair and, you've almost outgrown that family gene, so to speak?
Standard.
I've had a ton of tests, and with my endocrinologist. I've had, MRIs and scans of all my joints, and they class me as peri-osteo, I think it's called, which is before, but he says I do not have osteo or rheumatoid arthritis at this point. He says I've given myself a minimum of one, holding it and putting completely on hold, and giving me back at least 10 years of life.
That's success.
All my said, congratulations. The fact that I've maintained a 76% weight loss, I taken off just over 40 kilos in terms of my weight loss, and I'm still at 38.5. So I did the kind of 10% put back on, but I've maintained that for 5 years.
Yeah.
Wow. It's actually quite interesting to speak to somebody so far out as well, because...
And that's what I was going to lead into, because, like, you're 7 years out. So, like, I want to absorb. Like, give me all your information. Because, like, obviously, being four years out, I'm like, okay, I want to know, what is your relationship with food like?
Yeah.
What
was it like beforehand and what's it like now?
Are you still struggling with certain things? Are you still working through things? Like, where are you at 7 years down the track?
6 years down the track. I suppose it's still always a learning process, because you sometimes you eat something new and you kind of go,
I was going to say, get more.
But there are times where there are other habits that can be bad that start to sort of slip in, and it takes a little bit sometimes for me to go, right, there's too many of those now. I've crept up like 1.5 kilos, 2 kilos, and then I kind of went up to 4, and then I've put on weight. Don't get me wrong. Like at the beginning of last year, when I went into COVID lockdown, and I went literally to the cat, my book, and pull the cat in and sit there and not do very much, and felt sorry for myself, confined, and my business just went because what I do is in front of people. So my business crashed. For me, I went into a shocking place, and I put on sort of 6 or 7 kilos, and I went, right, that's it. And I went, pull that sugar back out of your cup of tea that you've had 5 this morning and you've eaten no breakfast.
Yeah.
Like something like that. I mean, I've been down the road of battling just myself and battling my own inner talk, and the not feeling like, well, why don't I have work? It's about me. And it's like, no, kind of, we're all in the same boat.
Yeah.
Not about me. It's about COVID, and what are you going to do in the meantime? So I had to challenge some of my eating, challenge some of my thinking. I actually went back on, and I did 2 shakes a day to just start me back on breakfast and having lunch. Because what I was doing was I was starting to skip meals, and I was snacking instead of doing meals. And so I kind of pulled myself out and then did a bit of a retrain. And I think the hard part was when I had the tightening of the top of the stomach, I think of it, when I had the surgery for the gastric fix, I've gone totally blank. Blah, 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 blah. The hernia. When I had the hernia fix, the hernia was a massive shock. Massive shock. It felt like I'd had the sleeve all over again. That was 2 weeks of liquid, 3 weeks of soft food, 3 weeks of, 2 weeks of puree, 3 weeks minimum of soft food, and it took me a long time. I was a bit traumatized by it, to tell you the truth, for me to go back over it again, and it wasn't something I had exactly chosen to do. I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't told that was actually going to be part of the course to have it done. But it really forced me to stop and rethink, especially over the last 18 months, 2 years through COVID, all that stuff from 6 years ago as to why I took the journey that I did. Because being forced back through it wasn't a sleeve, but it felt like a sleeve. To go back through it again, it kicked me really back in. So in some ways I was a little, I suppose, privileged, but that I had scurvy to give me a bit of a reset in my health. And scare and a bit of a, I don't recommend it personally, but it certainly helped me. Look, food wise, I tend to be a little not so inventive. I tend to do some of the same things. Again, because I know and it's easy, I do always have that sort of piece of protein and salad and or veggies for dinner. Tends to be more on the protein than anything. But I try to limit snacks. I try to make sure I have my meals. I generally have 2 Weet-Bix for breakfast. I tend to stick to my Weet-Bix for breakfast. I have some yogurt. I'll have a bit of cheese. So I still actually have maintained the limits. A lot of the limits. I still don't drink water or liquids. I do not drink. I have drunk in 6.5 years alcohol.
Wow.
That's impressive.
I know. And I do not have anything with bubbles. I gave up bubbles 6.5 years ago as well.
Wow.
So no alcohol. And I have maintained that because as far as I was concerned, I didn't want to ride the sugar insulin wave of alcohol. And there's issues with alcohol in my family. And that was one of the reasons why I had a family member who wasn't successful, because he continued to have his 2 to 3 Kilkennys a day.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to take on the unnecessary calories that I would just be eating empty calories. It wouldn't be healthy. So yeah.
Yeah, because we're like such creatures of habit. Like sometimes like we think we need something because it's just part of who we are. And like that clearly is like being the foundation of like why you've been successful long term, is literally because you've been able to break that habit of who you were.
Well, I was going to ask, what do you think the reason for your success was? Like, do you think it's because you've been able to let go of your old habits? Do you think it's because you've been able to, completely overhaul your life? You picked up exercise, like
redirected your focus.
What do you think, if you had to pinpoint one thing, and I don't know if it's possible.
One thing?
It might be a lot of.
I feel like if you're
different
successful with
things,
bariatric surgery, it's because of more than one thing.
But
I didn't have that chocolate bar.
But like, what do you think is your defining factor? As like, because you're 6 years out now, what do you think your defining factor was? Like, what made you successful in this process?
I think that I'm stubborn.
Oh
I love that.
In that word,
I didn't want to fail.
Successful.
Look, that whole, being stubborn, I just went, I'm not doing alcohol. I'm not doing bubbles.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a big one. Yes, I had sweets. In fact, if you look, I actually have a online Instagram cake decorator.
Yeah, I was going to say you're a cake decorator.
You're like trying to encourage people to eat cake. How does that work?
I make around about 20 to 30 cakes a year. I do a ton of courses. I am surrounded with cake and chocolate and buttercream and, do I try it just to make sure that the buttercream is actually somewhat decent, because I don't want to hand it over to a friend and go, do I have a little bit of cake? But you know what? For me, it's always about moderation. I don't sit there and eat hot. I don't eat the cake. This is the thing. I give it away because for me, I love giving and I love making like the creativity. So I've got on Instagram it's MVP, like Microsoft Study Professional, and MVP _ decorating. And so I have a mass amount of cake stuff. I love doing it. I love being surrounded by sweets. I don't eat them so much. Everyone else gets to have them.
Yeah,
that's why I'm a graphic designer, because I love creativity, but I also don't have self-control. So if I was a cake decorator, I would eat all the cake before I gave it away.
That was literally like, I remember talking to someone once, they said the best thing about being like, if you're going to be a drug dealer is you can't have the drugs. Cake is your drug.
I know.
And you just don't have it. I don't have self-control, like clearly, like, because I'm like, if I had the cake, I would eat the cake. I'd be like, that looks delicious. It's going in my mouth.
Well, I suppose to me, if I'm with someone and we're cutting the cake, I'll only have a really small bit. I'm not, I've gone more to the savoury, I suppose, than the sweet. And, but I mean, that's not to say I don't have that around me, and I will try, but I won't have a mass amount of it as I'm making it. It'll be a bit. And yeah, and I'm okay with that. That sits okay with me. Because the vast portion of my day, the vast portion of my week, my months, my years is about doing the right thing by my body.
Yeah.
That includes sweets. So it's about moderation for me.
I don't think you've discovered moderation. I think you've discovered like accountability.
Yeah, and self-control.
I think for you is like, if I have that whole cake, as delicious and moist as it is, I have to do a buttload of exercise to work that off.
It's funny though, because like back in the day when I was my first partner, when I was like 17, 18.
Oh my God, it's so cute.
Oh my God, amazing.
Yeah.
Every Sunday I would wake up.
You had a new partner? Oh yeah, it's
every Sunday I'd have a new partner. Yeah. My first partner, every Sunday I would wake up and I would make him pancakes.
Oh wow.
I hate pancakes.
I want pancakes.
I won't eat pancakes. I hate pancakes. I probably shouldn't be telling this story to Shannon because he wants pancakes every Sunday now. But like, I would wake up every Sunday and I would make him pancakes, and I would not eat them myself. I'd go and have Vegemite on toast or something like that. But like, it was a tradition of mine that, and I feel like it's somewhat like what you like to do. Like, I enjoyed the making of the pancakes, and I enjoyed the satisfaction that he got out of the pancakes, but I wouldn't eat the pancakes because they didn't fuss me. Like, I didn't care about them. Like, and I get that too. Like, I used to make him peanut butter cups as well. Like, I used to make him homemade peanut butter cups. I hate peanut butter. I hate peanut butter. I can't stand them. But like at least maybe once or twice a month, I'd make him peanut butter cups. So he'd come home from his job and there'd be a dozen peanut butter cups. And he'd be like, oh, do you want a few? I'd be like, no, I hate dark chocolate and peanut butter. Like, why would I want to eat this right now? Like, but I was a feeder, I guess, which I've learnt. I'm no longer, I've channeled that and I'm no longer a feeder. But like, I'm completely, shut up. I'm completely on the same path as you. Like, I'll feed other people and not myself.
I think what you're saying is like, clearly that's ingrained into who you are. Like, you know, you have a mental stimulation from a certain behavior that then you've passed on to others. I'm
a creative. I like creating and making things for people and seeing the joy.
Create me pancakes on a Sunday. Do not do that.
So for me, because I give to the community with work, it's all free stuff that I do in the youth groups. I create the cake to give. I'm always, for me, so it's about giving. If I don't have that outlet to give, then maybe I probably would have eaten. I think when I had really kind of fallen off the wagon at one point was my grandson was in hospital with a tumour on his face. So he's had, a couple of surgeries, and with his face, it was a very rare tumour. They'd never seen it globally. So with having to have his sort of whole face, he spent 2.5 years pretty much in hospital and chemotherapy and all sorts of really full-on stuff, and helping and supporting my daughter through all of that was picking up takeaway on the way to the hospital. And then picking up takeaway on the way to the hospital, and then picking up takeaway on the way. Taking it up to her, taking it up to her, taking it up to her. And then we went into lockdown, and I wasn't allowed near the hospital. And here I was having takeaway, and one time it would be healthy, and another time it wouldn't be healthy. And if I wasn't doing takeaway on the way to the hospital, I was going down to the canteen, and what does the canteen have? Not so healthy food.
Yeah.
So that was a really tough scenario. So when we say control, sometimes we say it's in our control, sometimes we say it's not so in our control. I had started to try and choose better when I went through the takeaway. It's like, well, what can I get? Okay, I can get the chicken salad at, McDonald's, or I could get, what were the things that I could do? Wasn't always so easy, but it became a real challenge, without a doubt.
Isn't it funny too, though? Because like my mind immediately just went to, if you're going through the Macca's drive-thru and you're getting a chicken salad, in my mind, a chicken salad from Macca's, you might as well be getting a cheeseburger because it's cooked in the same place. Like, surely it can't be. And that's just
bread. It was about trying not to do bread.
Yeah.
So if I was at least just having the chicken and lettuce and tomato, it was going to be better than if I did the bread with the lettuce and tomato and the chicken. So it was like trying to take something out. If I'm going to be going through the drive-through again and again, and I was working as well, by the way, long hours, not like I could do cooking, because then I was up at the hospital and I'd be leaving the hospital at 9:30 or 10 at night, because my daughter would be having to go home and have a shower and feed a cat and the plants, and then I'd give her a break each day from being locked down in a hospital. So, we were kind of cornered in some respects. But I think, no, I didn't make best choices. Absolutely I didn't. And that was something I then went, right, I have to rein this in. So, what are the better choices when you go to take away?
I think that's the thing you need to take away from it is, like, you were willing to make that better choice.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, how often in the past would you be, when you overweight, like, you would have just been like, nah, it's on hand, let's just do that thing. Like, get in my body.
And don't get me wrong.
You're in that position where you're like going, I want to be better long term. So you're like, I have to make a bad decision, but let's make the best of a bad decision.
And that's what I was about to say. Don't get me wrong. Like, I 100%, if you're in a Macca's drive-through and you decide the salad over the quarter pounder meal, 100% amazing, well done.
Big Macs win anyway.
But the way that my brain would always work is, well, I'm at Macca's, I might as well just get the quarter pounder.
Whole hog.
You know what I mean? Like, so for you to be able to decide to go, no, I'm going to get the salad, that's a massive win in my books. But it was just kind of like, what I
feel
mean?
like people at Macca's love you when you order a salad.
Oh, 100%. Like, and it's the same as if you go through Macca's and you're like, hey, can I just have a cappuccino from Mac Cafe, please? Like, and they're like, what? Why are you here? Like, go through Zarafas.
Can I have 2 quarter pounders and a water? I think they just love you.
So don't get me wrong.
Choosing water, because I didn't do soft drinks. So it was
oh, geez, you're one of them.
Can I have it? Oh, and you don't even do bubbles, so you're like, you can't even have a soda water. You're like, I'll have an apple juice.
Tap water with my 2 Big Macs, thanks.
But and don't get me wrong, like, I wasn't trying to discredit anybody who does that, but like, my mind automatically, if I'm going through Macca's, I'm at Macca's. I've made the decision that I'm at Macca's, and I am making a bad decision. So kudos to anybody who can go through the Macca's drive-through and go, you know what, I'm going to choose a Caesar salad over the Big Mac. So
wow,
well done.
So you're a creature of situation.
That's why I never go to Macca's.
Yeah,
salad
ever.
at a Porto. I'll always try and do, if I can get to some salmon sashimi, I will always take, if I could get that and I'd take it with me, I just take some salmon sashimi with me. And so I often try and prepare wherever I can, and I get my little zip bag with the ice block kind of in it to keep things cold. So wherever I am, I'll always try and choose the best option if I'm in an eatery. And even this is 6 years later, I will always try to choose the best option wherever I can, even if there's not a brilliant option.
Well, that's why sushi and dumplings are my go-to, because I kind of feel like they're portion controlled and they're slightly better than a box of chips or something. You know what I mean? Like, I will always choose sushi and dumplings over anything else, because I kind of feel like they're fresher and not as bad for you.
I'll often do like a chicken pho sort of thing.
Yum.
You can get the little ones rather than the big ones. You get the little one, I say extra chicken, so it actually becomes quite compact with lots of chicken in with the liquid and so it's a little less on the noodles, and I tend to eat the chicken and the liquid. And so if I'm trying to choose something, they're the sorts of things that I would choose if I don't have lots around me. So it's like, what are the things that I go to? So when I say I have kind of tend to be a bit, I suppose that's stubborn, and I go, well, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to try and choose the best possible option. I don't. Like, when you're under that kind of pressure, it's, a little one in hospital for nearly 2.5 years, and there's stress in a business. It's a very successful business where I'd have 5 staff running for 2 years all around Australia, and I'm a single woman doing it on my own in a big business. When you're trying to do that sort of stuff, if you're not looking after yourself first, you can't look after your daughter, you can't look after your grandson, you can't look after a business, you can't look after my twins. One's becoming a paramedic, one's becoming a commercial pilot, and you can't help them. You can't help your friends. You can't make and create and be and sleep well. And so for me, it was the choice that I made when I picked up that bit of food held me then accountable for the choices that I can make later, because each one of those things means that I can't help someone else with being a giver.
Massive accountability, massive. And I get that, because it's like, I think at the end of the day, you need to have that big goal. Like, you need to have that, like, I guess that big weight over your shoulders to make you make those right decisions. And for you, that's it, what it is.
Being 7 years out, what I want to know is what has been in your 7 years your biggest challenge?
My biggest challenge myself.
Oh, geez. Preach. Oh, my God.
No, I have been in relationships. I have, some where they are saboteurs. That has probably been, and having those around me that are saboteurs, often becomes really difficult. Not sometimes being able to talk about things that are going on for us as sleevers, for example, because it is a bit of a unique thing when it comes to food.
It is.
Giving up alcohol was although I don't find it difficult, Australia is very well known for being of drinkers. That's challenging. It
Society.
for a lot because also, when you're in a lot of social situations with others, and it just on the soft drink even, people put a lot of pressure on and food. Are you going to eat any more than that? Trying to date?
Yeah.
Oh my God! And they don't know what your journey is. They go, "That or you gonna do it some more?" So
yeah. Society standards. It is a big thing. Like we've talked about this before. Like with alcohol, is like the one drug where people go, why aren't you doing it?
Yeah, like if I was an ice addict and someone said to me, why aren't you doing like nobody would ever say that. Why aren't you doing ice tonight? Like
I'm trying meth. I'm working on a different drug this week.
But if you're like, oh, I'm not like drinking alcohol, the very first question that I get asked is, are you pregnant?
No.
Well,
do you have an issue with it?
oh.
That's it. Do we not have the right alcohol here at the party? Like it is. It's the one drug
so
where it's
bad.
like, you're more condemned for not having it than having it.
Yes, you are.
It's funny too because I was talking to somebody that we are hoping to get on on the podcast in the future, and she's working towards like an Ironman goal, and she's trying to put all these habits into place, and she works FIFO and blah blah blah, and she's just saying the one thing that she's trying to do is cut down on alcohol, and I was like, preach, me too, like, and she just said it's so hard in this current society because like you knock off work, the first thing you do is crack a beer, have a glass of wine, like oh, what are you up to? Do you want to come to the pub? Do you want to do this? Like everything that we do is revolved around alcohol.
Again, the tablet. If you took the tablet,
I'm
not bitter that I lost that debate.
Your tablet also included alcohol.
Everything, and it got 30% of the votes. But for you. What would be your top tip, Kirsty, for someone just starting out in this process? What would be the top tip?
Get a good team around you and keep them around you.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think that is like
I agree.
Support is key. And support is key. Like if I was like, I'm gonna eat 3 hot dogs today, later would be like, I don't feel like that's a good idea.
But like you even had a phone call with your surgeon today, like
Yeah.
You keep in contact with him,
100%.
you
Like,
get your bloods done, and
like my literal conversation yesterday with my surgery team was they called me up and said, hey, you're meant to be with Garth today, but he feels like he needs more time. Can he call you on the way home from work tomorrow? And I was like, yeah, that's fine. And we just literally had a chat, like, told me about a new property he brought and blah, blah. Because it's like, we got that relationship where like he literally said it the day I remember I went in to have surgery with him, and he said, we're not just creating like, I'm not just cutting your guts out and see you later. Like he created, like he said, we're mates for life. We are mates for life. We're creating a relationship where like, I will call you, now it's 3 months. He literally reduced it. It was 6 months and now it's every 3 months to have a chat. We're just going to chat and see where you're at and where and I think that's really important as much as like
Massively.
the relationship you're in that's supportive, as we talked about before, like having a relationship like that supports and kind of like, I guess, understands the process you're on is just as key as the surgical team,
100%.
like, because you could have someone who's like your mum who you think has, like my mum, for example, like she wasn't super impressed with when I said I'm going to have weight loss surgery.
She's a massive enabler as well.
She is, but like she understood enough that she let me, like she kind of went, I get why you're doing it. I don't understand it, but you should take this path. But could you imagine going to like this surgery with a partner that didn't understand? Like imagine going into this with a partner who didn't want to even didn't want to understand it. Like he just wanted to be like,
That had exactly I've actually got very good friends who were motivated after my surgery, and they had partners that are literally just going, "Don't, no."
Yeah.
So I've watched it firsthand. I've supported about five people since mine, and continue to support them. It is. I think for me, having my psychologist there, because that whole being accountable, for me, I ate my emotions, so I really had to sit with my emotions, that it was okay to be angry, it was okay to be sad, it was okay to be mad, and then if someone is going, "What's going on with you?" I'm mad. I'm mad at you, and these are the reasons I am mad at you. And I then be mad enough that I burst into tears, and that's okay too, to burst into tears. It all is so emotional. Instead of picking up that piece of food and eating. So when I start to eat again, I know that I'm eating my emotions.
Yeah.
So when I go back to my psych, it's usually because I need to learn to sit with my anger
Where
again.
you are, yeah.
In the moment, and that it's okay. So I have to relearn it again and again and again because I go back into old habits. So my psych, just amazing. She's wonderful. And, a doctor that's willing to work with me and send me and continuing to investigate whatever it is I say, you will go, okay, let's do it. What do we got to do? Let's have a look at it.
I think what you just said, Danny, is like perfect. Like you just said, like when you start to recreate old habits, you understand them enough to be like, what am I suppressing? Like you literally just said, like when I start to like eat my feelings, I understand that I'm not like kind of fulfilling my feelings. So it's like, and that's like something we've done in the past where we eat our feelings, and then we kind of like submiss them because we're kind of like, oh, it's just, I don't want to deal with that. That's too hard, and then we deal with them in a certain situation. But what you were just saying then is like literally you kind of go, okay, I'm eating my feelings. Why? And that's a self-awareness thing. And I think that's really powerful.
But I think also with the whole like team situation is that it keeps you accountable. Like I know that for other people who I know who have gone through the process where they haven't had a surgical team / dietitian, psychologist, blah, 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 that, the reception team pick up the phone and go, hey, you're due for your 5-year checkup. If you don't have that reminder, or if you don't get that text message that says, hey, we haven't seen you in a year, you're due for your yearly checkup, then they kind of go, oh, well, I'm just left to my own devices. Nobody is checking. Like it holds you accountable for something. So like for me, I know that part of my success is that I know that every year I have to go and have this meeting with my dietitian, with my psychologist, with my surgeon.
So it's accountability.
It's accountability. And if I decide not to have that meeting with that team, why am I deciding not to? Is that because I'm disappointed in myself?
It's a self-assessment.
Is that because I've gone, I probably haven't done what I need to do? Or like, am I saying, I'm going to go do this because I know that I am excelling in what I'm, you know what I mean? Like it's just,
or you feel comfortable,
or
you
that
need
little
the
accountability.
Yeah.
Like it's amazing when you're looking for a surgeon, or you're looking for a team, or you're looking to start out in this process. A lot of people just go, I want my stomach chopped out. I want a short-term solution.
Who's going to do it at the most affordable price?
100%.
Chop my stomach
but,
out.
you're talking to somebody during this podcast who we're 4 years out, you're 6-7 years out, however far out you are. Like you're talking to people who have been through the process. And we understand it's not just that whole first 1 or 2 years. Like, and when you are as far out as what we are, you're looking for something to hold you accountable and keep you in line. And
so I had a business. Talks about my business coach mentor. She's fabulous, and one of her big mottos is no excuses. We have to learn to live a life of no excuses. So if you've made a mistake with a client, you phone, you admit exactly why and what you're going to do to fix it. And so don't just go to them with the problem, go to them with the solution. And that is a life then for yourself. It's not just what is the problem, but what can be the solution. If you haven't got the solution, who has potentially got the solution to help you to get there? So to live a life of no excuses is, I've done that, and instead of going, oh, but yes, so-and-so did or they did or whatever, it's like, no, you're making a choice. And so living a life of no excuses is really tough. So when you start to do that, and the other one was, her word was, don't use the word busy. Not allowed to use the word busy because we put ourselves in this mindset and feeling that we're so busy, and we say to someone, "Oh, yeah, I've got a really busy week." They may not be inviting you to go do a cup of tea because they think, "Oh, you're too busy." Or, when you talk to a client and they go, "How are you going?" "Oh, I'm absolutely flat out." They go, "Oh, well, they don't have time. I've got a big program of work. I'll go to someone else." And we have this expectation and we put all this pressure if we're just busy, busy, busy. It's like, well, no, where's the downtime and a life by choice and all these things. So, she's helped me to pull the word busy out, and she's helped me to do no excuses. And that no excuses is both business and personal. So holding myself accountable, yes, that's a really big one, because that all comes down to that. There's no excuse.
I like that.
But that's a hard one, because like in my own business life, use busy as a metaphor for my time is precious.
Yeah.
So like when you say...
It's totally different. So this is the thing I found really interesting, because if someone now says to me, "How's your day?" and I go, "Fabulous, it was so productive."
Productive, yeah. No, because I always get... People always send me messages being like, "Hey, how are you?" I'm tired and I'm super busy. And I guess that makes it like a negative connotation.
How negative does it sound?
Yeah, 100%. Like if I say, "You know what, I'm super tired because I've been so productive this week," people go, "Oh, well, she's tired because she's been working hard." But like if I go, "I'm tired because I've been super busy," 100%. I love that.
I think it just goes to show psychology plays a large part in life in general, because because I think about that and I'm like, from my perspective, I go, if I'm busy, it means they're going to be like, well, I want him because other people want him.
Yeah, well, I've always thought that busy means you're successful.
But then like from the psychology perspective, it's like if you turn around and go, "I'm busy," someone goes, "Well, he doesn't need me."
Yeah.
And it plays that whole that whole psychology thing where like, well, if he doesn't need me, I don't want him. So... Yeah, that's a funny one.
Wow.
I like that.
I found with the way I've swapped out a lot of words, it's really changed a lot of my mindset around it, and I find that people have engaged with me differently, and I hear it now when everyone's always, it's just this mantra that we have, "Oh, we're just all so busy," and it's this high anxiety and stress, and we're just busy, busy, busy. And it's like, well, no, hang on a second. Yeah, it's been one of those ones, and, kudos to her. She's a fabulous.
Smart.
It's funny you
Very
say that, because
smart.
one of my best friends who I haven't seen because she's recently
busy?
I'm busy.
Okay.
Last year she moved down to New South Wales before the whole COVID thing sort of really ramped up down there, and she's tried to come up to the Queensland maybe 4 or 5 times.
Up to the Queensland.
Yeah. She's tried to come up
like
here
an
like
island.
4 or 5 times in the last 12 months, and she's never been able to get here. And she's finally coming. I'm spending the weekend with her this weekend. I'm super excited because she's actually here, so I'm allowed to say that because she's here. I'm going to see her. But she always sends me messages being like, "I know that you're super busy, but do you have time for?" And it makes me feel really bad that one of my best friends thinks that I'm so busy that I don't have time for them. Where on the other hand, like
if you turned around and went like, "Yeah, I have time for you," they're like, "Wow."
No, but everybody, like
You
all
rate me
of my
high.
friends know that I will literally, like one of my friends just tested positive. So I sent her a message today and
Chlamydia?
just said, and I sent her
COVID.
I sent her a message
okay.
today and saying, "Let me know if you need me to drop anything at your door. I will do it for you." And she goes, "No, but you're too busy to do that." And I was like, "Wait, you know that I will drop anything
You mentioned
for
the
you."
name.
She doesn't listen to this podcast.
Okay,
It's
good.
fine.
I will say, I've had a huge week. I've loved it.
Yeah.
Because I'm passionate about what I do. I enjoy my work. And then that invites them to then ask me. Instead
What
of
do
saying
you
I've
do?
had a so busy, so I just put it in a positive spin now. Well, the moment I took the word busy out and I realised how much people use it and how it comes across so negative. Start listening. Listen for the word.
Yeah.
Listen to how often you actually use it. You'll be a bit surprised. Yeah.
It is.
It's the number one thing. How are you? I'm tired and busy. That's the one thing I always say. It's not true. Like I pretty much do nothing the entire time, but I'm tired, but I make myself busy doing nothing. It's crazy. I'm going to look. Yeah. Okay.
see what the problem is.
Yeah, no, it is. Speaking of calendars, being busy, not having enough time,
No, being productive.
being productive.
She's productive.
Your next year, what does it look like?
My next year.
Mm.
Now, that's actually a really, really interesting question that I've been working on with my counsellor because my business did get hit hard over the last few years. And I was in a privileged position to have a fairly large kitty in the business from many years of success that I could draw from it. And so for me, it's looking at taking on even some contract work for a bit. It will turn around, and I can guarantee it will turn around because what I do doesn't ever stop or ultimately change. It's about do they have the money to put into it at the time.
Yeah.
So it's about things that I can actually do to be productive because I need to have a sense of purpose. And there's been that loss of a sense of purpose, which there's very much a defining part of self. And with my awards and things like that and stuff that I do, losing that sense of self over the last 2 years has been the biggest kick that I've had to overcome.
Yeah.
So I'm in that decision of do I walk away from my business or just get some contractual work in the meantime to get by? And I haven't quite made the choice. I've been looking at some different options, but after having a business for as long as what I have had, I'm also kind of somewhat inspired to maybe let it go. Which will be, we'll see. Ask me that again in another year. But this year is very much around reconnecting. When I'm connected more face-to-face, I'm a massive networker. When I network, my business goes absolutely through the roof. So it comes down to we'll see what the next sort of 2 to 3 months pans out. Kind of the joys of COVID and the latest. And I've been kind of doing a bit of a wait out because I've had the luxury and the privilege to be able to do a bit of a wait out.
Yeah, that's it.
So non-business related though, do you have anything like? Because you're quite like me. I'm quite busy at the moment. I'm quite business
busy.
Business related.
Okay,
Like that's where all of my goals are at the moment because I'm unlike you. I'm not established in business, and I really want to be. Where you've got the luxury where you are very established in business. So do you have anything fitness goals, anything like, health and wellness related, or is it from your
business as usual?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Business as usual.
No, not quite business. I do a fairly, fun Sunday morning bushwalk that I do with a bunch of ladies. I really want to get out and do some more of that because although I do tend to be on the go, I tend to keep myself on the go. I'm not someone that goes to the gym. It just moves. So I tend to just be on the go a lot. I'll be walking a lot. I'll be tearing around. I've got this week with my grandson. He's with me all week.
Yeah,
now,
you said that.
I'm moving.
Oh, mate. Yeah, kids.
100%.
That'll do it.
I can actually, at 5 foot, I can crawl through a jungle gym and I can go to the park and climb over everything. So yesterday we were up and down, ladders and hanging from things. And, I love that, at my age as a grandma, I can clamber over anything and everything. Some of them are a little too high for me, but some of those play centres, they get hard on the knees for an old girl, I can say. But, it's a lot of fun. At 50, I'm actually looking forward to the next 10 years rather than not looking forward to the next 10 years.
I love that.
That, to me, is such a positive of what I've got out. The fact that I've got a hold of, and I've understood now that scurvy and I've got a hold of my health, my hair. Like, I've gone back. This is my natural curls. So I stopped doing doing my long hair and straight. I went to my neck and got it. I'm in such a healthy place now that I'm really looking forward to what that health looks like because one of the core components of doing a lot of full-on exercise was my joints were so bad. So I was so sick. So now that I've got control of it, I'm really looking forward to what I can do with that.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing what you can do with that.
Yeah, I love where you're at, like in life. I just kind of like
You're very
love,
passionate. I love it.
Well,
like
I
you
think
ooze.
I almost
confidence.
wish that we spoke to you prior to surgery to see the person you were prior to surgery to see how you transform, because I feel like you just become this bubbly and vibrant person after surgery. I'd love to see like how that has transitioned, because like we can clearly see we can see weight wise how you've transitioned, and you know we can see the before and after and blah blah. But like, you know, as a person, I feel like you've grown so much, and I think that's what people need to take away from this episode is like, you know, taking that leap and like understanding that side of things is sometimes the most valuable lesson you can take away from it. Especially when you
look, getting heckled an awful lot really helps because you
so do a bit of stand-up comedy, maybe, you know, might help with the whole transition. Yeah.
Exactly, I get heckled most days. You know, the great part of being heckled is you have to get quite a thick skin.
Yeah.
You're standing in front of and talking to people and training, and people are brutal. You go into teaching and training and workshops and negotiation and resolution. I'm a change manager. I'm a comms manager. I'm a trainer. I'm an analyst. These accreditations under my belt to do change management. It's conflict negotiation and resolution. So if I can't do it in my own world, how can I do it for others?
100%.
So,
yeah, you have to have like real value in your own, you know, what you're saying, you know, to understand it enough to be like, you know, you're saying this, I believe this. So, you know, whatever, get over it. So
something that helped me in my business, I said, you have employed me as a specialist. You can listen to me if you wish to. If you don't wish to listen to my advice, that's your choice. But I am not backwards in coming forwards and telling you what you need to do to get the best possible version of what it is. And I have taken that over into my personal life as well. And I've got friends in terms of sleep, and I'm going, this is what you need to do. You don't do it, your choice.
Yeah.
I'll give you the advice. You may not like it. And that's been a bit of a motto that I've kind of taken through. I get a little brutal in some respects.
I love that.
But it's quite good.
That's it. Well, it's self-accountability again.
It's amazing
You know,
as well.
I love that. I think, and that's clearly why you've been successful 6-7 years out, because of that aspect of your personality. So I take my hat off to you. Very well done. Thank you for coming on and sharing all your knowledge. And hopefully someone can sit back and be like, you know what? Public speaking's for me. No, someone sits back and goes, accountability is for me. I'm going to take that leap and run with it. So.
Now, you're not on Instagram for your weight loss sort of things.
For cakes, we're not going to send someone to Cake Page. So where can someone reach out and find you? If somebody wants to reach out to you and have a chat to you, is there any way that they can do that?
No, absolutely they can. Through, I suppose if you want my, email or messenger in terms of, Facebook or, I don't mind. I'm happy to put that information forward, whether it's here or not, but you can find me or email as well. Yeah, no, that's fine. We'll, if someone reaches out to us and wants to reach out to you, we'll definitely pass on your information for them to reach out to you. But yeah, apart from that, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for sharing a little bit of your vast bariatric knowledge, life knowledge. It's been an absolute pleasure. And guys, that is another episode of
BARI Banter.
Oh, yes, that is another episode of BARI Banter in the books. We hope you got a little something from that one.
Head on over to Facebook or Instagram and check us out, or go to baribanter.com where you can watch past episodes, give us feedback, and let us know who you want to hear from next.
We love you all, and as always, please stay beautiful.